Hi, Yusuf. It's good to see you today.
Hello.
Well, I was wondering if you could just share some things with us today.
Okay.
This evening. Can you start us out with, give us your name and where you're from?
Background, all that good stuff.
Sure.
My name's Yusuf Charles El-Shahibi. I was born in Newtonville, Massachusetts, to my father, whose name is Fateh El-Shahibi, and my mother's name is Carol Wallace. So I was born to a Libyan father who was a college student who came here in the late 70s, early 80s from Gaddafi's regime, kind of fleeing that whole thing, and my mother was, I guess you could say, a hippie who, I guess back in the day, had a thing for my father. So they got married, had 2 kids, me and my sister Aisha, who hates that name, but that's what I insist on calling her. We moved out, me and my mother moved down here when I was about 10 years old in 2000 to Florida from Newton, and been living in the South ever since. Dad's still up there, I'm down here, live with my mom, so that's about it.
So your dad, that's quite interesting, quite a difference there in your mom and dad.
Yeah.
What does your dad do now? Is he still up north?
Yeah, my dad's a college professor. He's a doctor, actually. Dr. El-Shahibi, he insists on being called that. He, I believe right now he's at Northeastern. He was at Boston University. He works at a few universities, writes some books on Arab-American relations and Arab lifestyles and customs and stuff like that.
So you've been here. So you've been here in Florida this whole time.
12 years, roughly.
And so you came through all of elementary, not all of the elementary,
I moved here in
but
6th grade.
6th grade.
Sixth grade, I moved here.
So all of your middle school and high school years,
Yes.
you spent here in Florida.
And since, yes.
Yeah. And how old are you now?
I'm 23 now, so I've been out of high school. I graduated in 2008, so it's been like 5 years, I believe, since high school, 5-6 years almost. So
Yeah.
I like it here. My friends are here. I grew up in the Florida. Maybe wearing a New England shirt, but I'm a Southerner. I grew up in the South. It's home.
Okay. Good. So if you think for just a minute, you've been in Florida all this time, but can you think of anything either local or nationally, anything that you would consider any event that would be really important that you've witnessed or been a part of?
I can already tell you right now, the day that changed my life, like forever, because I grew up just thinking of myself as a kid. I was an American kid. I grew up in America. My mother was American. My parents got divorced when I was 4. I grew up with a Scottish-French family who was loud and obnoxious New Englanders. I'm an American. That's how I've always perceived myself. But September 11, 2001, when I was in 2nd period, Dr. Miller's math class in 6th grade math. I'll never forget that. They turned on the TV and they showed the planes going into the building, the Twin Towers, and they said that I'm extreme for this.
Wow.
And I was one of 2 Arab kids in Pasco County. Not that are familiar with Pasco County, Florida. Pasco County, Florida is not really the most accepting place in the world. And on that point in time, I put my head on my desk and I said, I'm screwed. I knew it because I was only in this state for about 2 months. I had 1 friend. I knew nobody, and that day changed everything because from that point on, for a couple weeks, I got beat up every day after school, walking home from school, just because my name was Yusuf. I had the same name as one of the bombers, and I got repercussions of that action.
Wow, but you were just a kid.
I was 11 years old. I was in the Boy Scouts. I mean, I love America. America gave my father an opportunity to set up. It gave me the ability to live. If it wasn't for this country, I wouldn't exist. My dad's from another world. My mother grew up here. I wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the idea of America. So that happening, that changed everything. I mean, I started having I was a pretty, I had anger issues, but that was the day that I started acting out with my fists more than anything. That was what changed it. Was when I had to start defending myself. Was when I got a violent streak.
Wow.
And unfortunate, but that's what happens when you push kids and they have to fight back. And I mean, you get over it, but that day changed everything. Because that point on, instead of just being another kid, I had to deal with people saying damn towel heads, sand niggers, dune coons, all these racial terms. I apologize, I'm getting a little upset with this, but I had to deal with being profiled, stereotyped, and put down by everybody, including my friends, because of my race. Because instead of just being an American like we should be, because I was born here, this is my home, I was perceived as something else. Even though I consider myself, I may be Arab, but I was raised by my red-haired, freckled mother. I'm a Christian. I'm not a Muslim. I was in the Boy Scouts until I was 18 years old. I was in the marching band in high school, active in the Young Democrats Club in high school. I was president for one of the years. German club. I was just a kid, and I had to deal with people perceiving me as something else, and it led to an identity issue, I guess you could say, because I tried to compensate for being something that I wasn't by acting, out. I had to build a name for myself, not just that Arab kid who everybody can pick on. And that's.
So you really had it rough, and I just, I'm shocked to find out that kids were.
Kids are cruel.
Yeah, and behaving in that manner towards you when, what happened? Did you ever try to report them when they were doing the,
what was the point?
You didn't feel like you'd get any help from the administration?
It was after school, I was off school grounds, and I didn't know anybody, so I didn't know who these kids were that were beating me up. I mean, they were just, I'd be riding my bike home, and I'd end up out of a bush and kick my bike over, and that was it.
Wow.
And that was the day I had to start acting out and defending myself, and I've gotten over that violence. I've forgiven everybody who's ever done anything to me in my life. I've grown up a lot and understand that it's just people not being enough and understanding enough, realizing it, and I've gotten over it, and I don't act out in those angry ways anymore because it's pointless to get violent. It's pointless. Just turn the other cheek and move on. Don't let someone else's ignorance upset you.
Well, that's a good outlook. You're right. And it's a shame that you had to go through that, especially just being a kid. That it was pointless, but I'm glad you've been able to overcome that. Did anything else happen during that time frame?
Well, I tell you that.
How is your father reacting to all of this since?
Oh, that, yeah. Well,
since he's
about 2 months after of September 11th, an agent from I'm not going to disclose agency, but a government agent came to my house and questioned me, my mother, and my sister about my father. Now, I don't know. I was a little kid. I don't know why. Maybe someone said something. I don't know. I don't know the details. I know is he came here to my house in Florida and asked me about if I knew of my father being in an extremist organization, if I knew about my father disliking America. And I flipped out on the guy. I was 11 years old, and I wigged out. He left, and that stuff upsets me because I may not have the relationship with my father in the world, but I know that my father loves America. And if he wasn't here, he would be probably in the Libyan army or living in a shack with a goat in Libya. I mean, he came to this country, got an education, excelled in his education, focused on his education, and now a couple doctorates and a couple master's degrees, and he's doing well for himself. That's what America is anybody can do anything if they put themselves, into it enough. But it upset me when I saw the country that was supposed to defend our liberties, and I thought that perceived me as an American, came to my house and thought that my dad, who's living the American dream, so to speak, was in some way jeopardizing what this country stands for.
That's true.
That completely, if you knew me before that day, growing up as a kid, I was a completely different kid. It really, I won't change it happening because it made me the man I am, and I think I'm a very well-rounded individual mentally. I'm matured a lot in my head. I've got a good track, I feel, set in my life. And without those things and these things happening in life, I feel, I'd be somewhere else. And I like where I'm at. I mean, I like the man I am.
Yeah, that's true. Our experiences do form us into the people that we are, but you've had quite some experiences there just because of...
One day.
Yeah.
One day caused me to go into depression, act out in anger, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, anything, pain of feeling who I was. For years, I would look in the mirror and despise the person I looked at. Now I don't. I like who I am.
Because of the way other people treated you after that happened?
Because my mind, in the last few years, I've become clean. I've gotten off all the drugs, and I've stopped heavy drinking, and I've stopped doing all that stuff. I've really come to terms with who I am, and the fact that what those people think of me means nothing. I stopped caring because it doesn't mean anything. All that matters is what you think about yourself, what your family thinks about you, and what your loved ones think about you. That's all that matters. Nobody else in this world, their opinion shouldn't mean anything to you.
That's true. That's a good outlook. So you've run the whole gamut there, from...
I lived a lot for a 23-year-old.
Yeah, you have, yeah. And to experience that, others have experienced, most of us, what happened that day, but we've experienced, I think, in a different light, just as, European American citizens that have grown up that did not have to, that are not...
what I noticed on that day was that day united. You could see it, but what a lot of people could not see behind the mask of the uniting was the outcasting that was happening to certain people. Because there aren't many that are like me. There aren't many. I've met a few kids who have, a white parent and a parent from the Middle East, and a lot of them have the same experience. A lot of them have lived the same lives as me in retrospective. The stereotyping, the racism, Muslims, and they had it way worse than I did because they were Muslims. And I felt awful for them, but a lot of people didn't realize that it did affect a lot of people in a way that hurt them. Even though people think we're to blame because we're the Arabs, we're not to blame. I cried that day. I was shocked. I was an American. I'm still an American. My three major loyalties is to God, family, and country. That's it. And it hurt a lot of people, including some of us got beat up on the side of the road after the day and had to deal with being called a towelhead the rest of their life, even though I've never worn one on my head. I got curly hair, I had a mohawk and dreadlocks, and I was just a kid who was in metal and rock and roll growing up. Tattoos, Muslim men don't have tattoos. I regret most of them, but I got them. So.
Well, you have another really, I know you said you were in the band in high school and the Boy Scouts and everything, and made it to your Eagle Scout.
I'm an Eagle Scout. I was living in my car my senior year. I had issues at home, that kind of stuff, and I was working on my Eagle project. I ended up, not because I had to focus on graduating high school, but in the Boy Scouts, they gave me an award. I got involved in this organization in the Scouts called the Order of the Arrow, which is the honor society of the Scouts, and I've really excelled in that. They gave me an opportunity to put myself to work, and I busted my butt as best as I could, and they gave me an award known as the Vigil Honor, which I think they said 1 out of every 20,000 eventually get it. That's it. It's the best of the best. The honored get in this organization, but only the best of that organization get this award. And then on top of that, my local organization, which was Pasco and Pinellas counties, gave me an award called the Whitehurst Award. Just 10 of us that were picked to receive the honor award. I was the best. And that day, I cried like a little girl. All of these Boy Scouts, all these men I know my whole life, because it showed me that even though I dealt with crap, combination, work pays off. Yeah. And it was a good day. It was a good feeling. I still have those awards in my room, and no matter how old I am, they'll always be on my wall because they mean something to me. They mean something right here. I got the award tattooed on the back of my arm. That was the highest thing I've ever been given in my life. It was a good feeling. So I liked it.
That's fantastic. There was a lot of work that went into that, and it paid off. That's amazing.
For meetings every month, weekends every couple months. It was a lot of work, a lot of paperwork, a lot of calls. But I loved it. I met a lot of good people that I'm still friends with to this day. And those guys still, they perceive me as more of an American than most, but they still crack the Arab joke every once in a while. And I deal with it because I'll call them a crackerback, that's how boys are, I guess, but sometimes it does.
Yeah. Yes, that's been, I can imagine, how that would be difficult to be going through all that, but I'm glad that you persevered and you managed to get through it.
Kept pushing. You can't, I believe it's a Josh Turner song. I'm quoting a country song. Yes, the half Arab guy's quoting a country song. If you're going through hell, keep on going, because, at the end of the day, it always gets better. What's
that other special interest you have that would be unusual for someone?
Oh yeah, I'm a Civil War reenactor, hardcore. I'm a member of the 79th New York Company D. We're a Union unit. I used to be Confederate at one point in time, which is kind of ironic. I do them all over the state of Florida, all over the southeastern U.S. I was up in Maryland a few months ago. I'm going up to Pennsylvania this year. I'm going up to Tennessee this year. I'm doing them all over. It's a great hobby.
Now, are you going out to the actual sites of the battles during the war?
Most of the battlefields are national parks, and you're not allowed to bring a gun on the field. Okay. There's only one battle that I'm into, and it's in the state of Florida. Only one battle in the nation that you can fight on actual battlefield, and that's Olustee, Florida, northern Florida. The rest of them, you got to fight somewhere else. But every time I go to a battlefield, I go in my uniform. I know I'm a hardcore dude, and I walk to the ground. I pick up a rock from a location, like at Gettysburg. I went to the top of Little Round Top, where the 20th Maine is. At the time period, my family was in Maine, so I don't know all the details, but I believe some of my family fought for the state of Maine. Picked up a rock, put it in my pocket, picked up a handful of dirt, wiped it on my shirt. I do that at every battlefield. Go to a spot, pick up dirt, put it in my jacket. My jacket is red from Tennessee clay right now, so that's what I do. Love America's history, because this country has, like, I feel as an American that we have some of the greatest rights that people don't have. In my father's country, you don't get the ability to vote. In his country, one of his cousins had a problem with the government, and the government sent troops to his house, pulled him in the front yard, and executed the whole family on the spot. In this country, they don't do that. You know, there are flaws in our country, and I feel that there's injustices that have been occurring, but the fact of the matter is, as an American citizen, we have the right to do what we want. We have the right to say no. We have the right to unite as a people and do what we want. And America is the greatest country that has ever been founded, in my opinion, on our Constitution. I mean, freedom and justice for all is the greatest word ever written. Let's live by it. I mean, I love this country. My friends call me the most American white Arab that ever lived, because I am. America's awesome. I wanted to be a politician when I was a little kid, but after 9/11 happened, I felt like the day an Arab would ever get in office would never happen. I mean, we got a black guy in the presidency, but I still don't think I got a shot.
Did you ever have conversation with Dad about 9/11 and what happened with him, and you know?
My dad talked to me very briefly about it, because at the time the Patriot Act just got enabled, and he didn't want to talk to the phone because they were going to see him. And the fact, he just said to me, he goes, what happened is a travesty to this country. Because he's an American citizen, he was disgusted by what they did. He felt that no personal problem with your philosophy of life should ever be acted out in violence in that matter, ever. And, I mean, we don't talk about it much because my dad doesn't talk about, you know, he's a Muslim man. Muslim men don't talk about personal things. They don't open up very often. And he was not a happy man when that day happened, because he knew it would change people's perspectives on us and as a people, and it really did. I mean, it made being a Muslim a bad thing in some places. I mean, mosques attacked in areas of the United States. I mean, on airplanes, I get random just every time. And it's not random when it's every time. I mean, I gotta say that. To the TSA guys that are watching, it's not random if it's every time I get on a plane, all right? I was on a flight in my Boy Scout uniform going to his conference, and I got picked out of all the Boy Scouts. I was the one who got searched.
Really?
That's not random.
In a Boy Scout uniform.
With a t-shirt and the shorts and the socks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's the world. It's hard to say that. People say that racial profiling and racism doesn't exist in this world. That's a load of crap. That's a load of crap, because I feel that everybody in this world, no matter what they say, has ideas and they have mental, you know, settings of what people are just by looking at them. I don't give a crap what you say, who you are. You have it. Don't be a liar. Don't be a hypocrite. You do. I even have them. I'll even profile someone just by looking at them. And I do, but it's sad. But that's the world we live in. And when they look at your name, and it made getting jobs harder too. They look at my name, Yusuf El-Shahibi. But once I get an interview, they love me. Once they get to talk to me and realize who I am, they love me. That's the world. Yeah. They judge you before they get to know you. And you shouldn't do that. You should get to know a person. I smile and I'm nice to everybody nowadays. There's no reason to be rude. There's no reason to be mean. We should all just be kind to everybody and love everybody.
Yeah. Quite an outlook.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing so much with us.
Thank you for.
And I hope
this educates some people.
I hope so. Yeah. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you.